friends, Heidi here from Rain Country. God is good all the time, and it's been a while since I've done a tea video, so I thought I'd share with you one of my newest recipes for my immune boosting tea. And I do switch things up quite a bit. I don't do it exactly the same all the time, so I'm going to give you a few options, and this is just a few. But the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to link you back to the video I did last year on antivirals. I have one that's specifically about all the different antivirals, so that's more about, you know, protecting you against viruses, but really a lot of these same herbs and spices are super great for just building up your immune system in the first place. So I'm going to start by listing off what I'm using in this particular batch. This is the newest addition I've added to my collection of herbs, whether it be ones I grow or ones that I purchased. This one I bought because I haven't started growing it yet, and this is astragalus. Now I did get some seeds coming in, so I'm going to try growing it this year, but this is the root, and it's very, very excellent for building the immune system. So what I've got here is my vintage silver teapot. I have a video just on this. It's a few years old, but I'll link to it down below because this is really interesting. It's got a little history to it. And so I'm going to throw a couple pieces like this in there. Now let's go ahead and do one more, since one of those was kind of on the smaller side. I just toss that directly in my pot. And when it comes to this kind of thing, this is actually, even though I have my own homemade tea bags that I use, that I will also link to a video on that down below. Most of the time I just stick things directly in the pot. A new addition I'm adding to this is the black seed. So I've been happy with the black seed in the tea, as long as I don't go overboard. So maybe a teaspoon to a tablespoon of that in the pot. And I do have videos on quite a few of the things I'm talking about, but not everything, not yet. But this is one of them. This is actually one of the newest videos I've done, is on the black seed. The one I added last year that I absolutely love is the star anise. It's actually star anise that is used in a lot of flu remedies that you can buy over the counter, and it has a wonderful licorice flavor. In fact, this is licorice, where they get the flavor for licorice actually comes from the star anise, not actually the licorice root itself, because though the licorice plant has that flavor, it's just not as strong as it is in the star anise. So I'm going to put 3 stars into my pot, at least 2.5. One of those was broken in half. And this pot holds about a quart. And then another of my favorite things to add is a few cloves. I can put quite a bit in, like I put at least 5. You may want to cut it back to just 2 or 3, depending on how strong you like your tea, because you get too many cloves in there, it's going to be very strong. So, and all these things I'm using are organic. That's when it comes to buying this kind of stuff, as long as I can find it in organic, that's all I will buy. And then cinnamon sticks. Again, I've talked about cinnamon. I have a video on this. Because I use a lot of cinnamon, I only use the Ceylon cinnamon. And so what I find, usually I'll put in 2 sticks, but I find that 3 sticks really gives it that powerful flavor I like. So I'm putting in 3 of those. And then another of my favorite additions is the nutmeg. So for this, I'm using whole nutmeg rather than the ground nutmeg. And so what I do is I've got my marble mortar and pestle here, and I have 2 different mortar and pestles, one that Patrick made me, and then this marble one. And this one I like to use specifically for really hard things like this. And I just break that up. I don't want to grind it. I don't really want it in a powder. I want it in chunks. And so I'll use about 1/3 of that in my pot to get that flavor. And then the rest I'll just leave in here for the next batches of tea that I make, or I can put them into their own separate container. Oh, the smell of this is wonderful. And then ginger, I recommend, if you can grow or you can buy locally organic ginger, the root fresh, then I recommend using that and then dehydrating it first. So you can throw it in fresh, but then if you dehydrate a bunch of it up, then you can just pull a slice out of your little jar and then throw it in there, and you could just leave the skins on. Just make sure you wash them up first. But since I don't have that, I'm just going to throw a little powdered ginger in there. And then one of my favorite things to add, other favorite things, again, this is going to be a total matter of choice, is some red pepper flakes to give it some spice, which are also high in vitamin C as well, and very good for boosting the immune system. Now, some other options I do like to add occasionally are some dried organic orange peels, and I only, when it comes to ingesting, I only use organic citrus peels when I'm doing this. But I've been very sparse at using these because lately it's been a lot harder for us to find fresh organic oranges, and so I'm saving the orange peels for other things, but it is a great way to add a little bit of that orange flavor as well as get even more vitamin C into your tea. But I'm going to be leaving that out. And then, of course, another great one are your black elderberries, the Sambucus nigra. You can put, I would say, maybe about a tablespoon of those in. I don't do this very often, but I'll go ahead and throw it into there. And just like you would if you're going to make an elderberry syrup, you're going to be boiling it anyway. And so to this, I'm going to go ahead and add my filtered rainwater. And I'm just going to fill up the whole teapot. Now, since this is a tea that we'll be drinking tonight, I'm not going to be actually cooking this up right now. I'll be doing it later, but I'll make sure to get some pictures and some video clips. So then I'm just going to put it on the stove and then let it simmer for at least half an hour to an hour. An hour is preferable when you're talking things like roots and bark, the cloves and the star anise. Those things, it's good to boil them for a long time to get that, to pull all the good nutrients and benefits out of there. Now, when you're talking about more delicate things like echinacea leaves and flowers, or any kind of herbs that are like your greens or your flowers, those are things that you're going to not want to boil. You're going to want to maybe add those in later. So let's say if I want to add the echinacea flower and leaves, now if I'm using the root, that'd be different. The dried root, then I'd throw that in here. But with the greens like this, that would be something that I've got myself into the habit of adding in after I've simmered my other hard things in the tea for a period of time, and then it's nice and hot. Then I'll set that up so it's not directly on the wood stove, and then add in my more delicate things such as the echinacea or even the mixed greens blend. This has got nettle and a whole bunch of other greens in here that are really healthy, got lots of good nutrients that will, you know, anytime you're getting lots of your good minerals and vitamins from your greens, that's another way to help build your immune system. And so those are the kind of things I'll put in later. I do the same thing if I'm making just plain peppermint tea. I do not boil it. I've learned that one. It actually makes it taste bad, and then you know you're not getting all the good benefits, and it's overcooked. So that's something I'll only set it on the wood stove for a short period of time until it's nice and hot, but I do not boil it. I then set it up on a trivet so that it just keeps it warm or keeps it hot without simmering it. And then as far as amounts, if you go too heavy on the mixed greens blend, your tea will end up with a very green flavor. Go figure, right? But you can use up to, I'd say, a tablespoon of that. And then same thing with the echinacea or any of your other herbs that you want to add in later. You can use a teaspoon to a tablespoon depending on the herb. So these are just a few ideas. Again, I'm always mixing it up. Oh, and one I forgot to mention also is allspice. So I've got some allspice here. I didn't end up adding it, but I do the same thing with the allspice that I do with the nutmeg, is I'll put it in my mortar and pestle and then crunch it up. Not powder it up, just crunch it up so I can break these open to make sure I'm getting all the good nutrients and flavor from the allspice into the tea. So this is another great one to add. And again, don't forget to check out that video I'll be linking down below, because I have quite an extensive list, and even in that list for immune boosters and antivirals, I still didn't get everything in there. There's so much more out there. But having a good selection of things to make your teas out of, because we're all going to have different tastes, and we're also going to have different needs, and we're also going to find some things that work better for us than maybe work for somebody else. So what I'm going to do right now is, since I'll be making this later, I'll put a little video clip here of what the tea looks like when I go to pour it this evening. My favorites for flavor being the nutmeg, the cinnamon, the star anise, and the cloves, and they blend very well all together. And then to add that spice, the red pepper. And then the astragalus doesn't have a great flavor because lots of roots like that have that same kind of rooty type flavor. So that's just put in there for the benefits of being immune boosting. But as far as everything else, you know, just mix and match according to your own flavors. And it doesn't just have to be orange peels. You can try lemon peels as well. Again, going with organic. I don't recommend doing lime or grapefruit though. Those will really make it bitter. I've made that mistake before. Okay, well that's it for my tea recipe video for this time around. I have a lot more different tea recipes that I've made, and I will link to that whole playlist in the description box down below. Now don't forget to click on either show more right down here below my channel name, or if you're on a smart device of any kind, you should be able to find a little gray triangle right down here in the corner. Click on that to open up the description box to find our contact information, the MeWe group page, the links I'm posting, and so much more. Okay, well go ahead and share with us down below too, what are your favorite tea blends that you like to make from scratch? All right, well thanks for watching. Take care and God bless.